And welcome back to the 2019 Cannabis Industry Summit. Joining us now is Nick Tennant with Precision Extraction Solutions. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So you've been an entrepreneur in the cannabis industry for over a dozen years. How did that get started?
Yeah, so back in 2008 when Michigan passed its law, a little bit before that, I was already in the industry with family in Colorado and in California. So we knew that the law was coming here. I was actually the 40th person to get licensed, caregiver-wise, in the state of Michigan. And we did growing, retail, pretty much anything you could think of for the first 5 years. About 5 or so years ago, and maybe about 6 years ago, we saw the trend going towards everything extracts, which is when we founded Precision and started building our extraction equipment and helping people process their crops into ultimately a better, extractable, replicatable end product.
This is something back in the day, I remember I'd hear the word extraction and then I'd see a YouTube of something blowing up. And something went bad. They didn't do it right? Yeah. If you don't know what you're doing, it could be dangerous, right?
Sure.
Tell us how it works when it works properly.
Yeah, so obviously everything is regulated. You have to think of this industry now in extraction almost like an oil refinery or something that's highly engineered, highly regulated, and extremely safe with all the precautions. That would be the first thing that I would put out there. But basically the process is fairly simple. We use what's called an organic solvent. So we do an organic solvent-based extraction, and what we do is we simply pretty much pass that solvent over the cannabis or hemp material in a fashion which grabs all of the oils and desirable terpenes, flavors, flavonoids, and leaves behind all the undesirables. So the cellular structure of the plant, the chlorophylls, etc. And ultimately what happens is you can adjust those parameters by size, by time, by temperature, all these different variables, you can play with them to ultimately make an artisanal product that is a very refined, very pure, very unadulterated oil that reflects the primary constitutes of the original plant.
So do you guys work in the CBD area and the THC area?
We do, yep. We work in CBD and THC.
So people who are watching this, some people won't really have any idea what that means. But for those who don't, explain how CBD is different than THC.
Sure, so they're both what are called cannabinoids. So cannabinoids are these molecules that are produced within the cannabis or hemp plant. And ultimately what these molecules do is they bind to something called your endocannabinoid system inside your body. It's naturally created, naturally derived, obviously. And when these molecules bind to your endocannabinoid system, they have certain effects. So THC is a cannabinoid that binds and causes that sort of high, almost hallucinogenic, euphoric type adulterated effect, whereas CBD binds to the endocannabinoid system and just provides no high, no altered state of consciousness, but it regulates your parasympathetic nervous system in a way where it calms you down, it relaxes you, very good for anxiety, very good for aches and pains. It just kind of takes the edge off, so to speak, without kind of adulterating your mind. Yeah?
This may be a naive question, but so you hear about, well, there'll be a marijuana that will make you happy, or one that'll make you sleep, or one that'll make you this or that, or all these things. Is that all part of the extract process, or does that happen after, like, somebody's special recipe in the kitchen? So
that's actually part of the inherent properties of the plant. So when we talk about THC and CBD, right, these are two cannabinoids. There's actually over 80 cannabinoids. So in any given cannabis plant, you may have 16 to 30 different cannabinoids, as well as a bunch of different terpenes. Terpenes are what give a plant its flavor or smell. So, for example, alpha-pinene terpene. If you ever rub a pine tree or get pine sap, that's alpha-pinene. But the key is this entourage or this harmonistic effect between all of these different compounds in the plant. And when you weigh these different compounds, they're affecting your nervous system, your central nervous system, your endocannabinoid system, right? And to the point where each one of them is going to give a little bit of a different effect. Now, we've started, when I say we, the industry has started to document the effects of these different ratios of cannabinoids, these different ratios of terpenes, and how they interact with the human body. And there's actually pretty good evidence on certain strains affect certain aspects of altered consciousness, or one makes you happy, one makes you sleepy, one makes you hungry, whatever it is, right? So this is kind of how this all works, and there's absolutely more scientific literature being developed on this right now.
So you watched this take place in Colorado, and now it's taking place in Michigan. Give us an idea, as someone who's from this area, what kind of growth potential this whole industry actually has for the state?
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. So if you look at Michigan comparative to other models, for our business, about 8% to 10% of our business is in Michigan. So we have the benefit of being exposed to all these very progressive, forward-thinking models, whether it's in Europe and operating in the Euradex GMP guidelines, or it's in very mature states like California and Colorado. But what you can see ultimately is you see the consumption of the product changing from that raw flower to more extract-derived products. That's a trend that we absolutely see almost in progressive states or progressive markets. 70% of the consumables actually coming from extract-derived products. But in terms of the opportunity for Michigan specifically, you have tremendous amount of growth. We are maybe 1 to 2 years in of really now starting to put a regulatory framework together. So in terms of taking the entire market capacity and breaking that down, we're maybe 15 to 20% into that entire market capacity. So looking at the market as a whole and looking at how much we've tapped, you'll be able to start to understand based upon these parameters and comparing them to more mature markets, how far along we are.
Would you say it's important for businesses that aren't in the cannabis industry to pay attention to the cannabis industry?
It's hard to say. It depends on which niche you're in. So if you're in a business that is in, for example, the regulatory environment, if you're an insurance agent, if you're a banker, if you're an investment banker on Wall Street, a delivery service, anybody that could potentially touch the space or be affected by the industry, it absolutely pays you to know what's going on, at least keep your pulse, finger on the pulse, so to speak.
And it's really important really to have experts that you can turn to because there is regulation with it.
Oh, by all means. So one of the key components or the key themes that kept recurring in the panels tonight when we were giving the talks is hire the experts. Everybody was really trying to push the fact that a lot of people think that they're going to come into this industry and we're going to grow weed, we're going to make money, right? It's extremely tough. It's just like any other business. The core operating principles still stand true. The core tenets of a good operationally sound business and profitability still hold true. And ultimately, cultivating the cannabis plant, it's a little tough. Extraction is actually a lot easier than cultivation, which is part of what segued me 7 years ago after having cultivated for 5 years. I was like, man, this is tough. I'm
an extract.
Yeah, there you go. So, not to scare anybody away, but there is a requirement of due diligence that needs to be done, and employing the experts to give you that expert advice is a huge, tremendous tailwind that you can take advantage of.
All right, Nick Tennant, Precision Extraction Solutions. Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back with the 2019 Cannabis Industry Summit. Stay with us.